Should bands or artists ban phones from shows? I've seen a bit of talk on this recently, mostly surrounding Kendrick Lamar's decision to do this, and the argument typically is in favour of it because a lot of people will say respect the artists, they've asked for this, you should live for the moment, live in the moment, enjoy the moment, stop being on your phone too much. And a lot of the arguments I do agree with to a certain extent, but I do want to address the argument here because I don't fully agree with the premise of it. I've got a lot of different points that I want to make that I will address. But first of all, I think the one that I want to just start off with is that with artists like Kendrick Lamar or anyone on his status or even above his status, Drake, Beyonce, Radiohead, I guess, fucking Chainsmokers, Ariana Grande, Little Mix, I guess, in the UK. They will charge a shit ton of money for their shows. Like, it is no word of a lie. You can't even... You know this. You go on the websites and you'll see that these artists charge a fuck ton of money. I'm sure Bruno Mars toured the UK not too long ago and it was well over £100. Obviously I'm talking about the UK, so it would be converted to dollars, but that's still probably like $200. Drake, I remember seeing Drake, fucking hell. It was a seated ticket and it was about £105. You what? So obviously a lot of these artists charge a lot of money. They are huge. They are massive. They can get away with it. The venues can get away with it. So what I want to just bring up first and foremost is that if you are paying that much money, like to some people, if you're paying like nearly £200, that could be someone's weekly wage, by the way. I think you have the right to take a few photos and maybe a couple of videos, don't you? I think you have the right to do that. You've paid a lot of money. We can't take that away from people. Can we though? Just think of it this way, right? You've gone on holiday. You've paid over £1,000 for your holiday or however much money you've got. And then you get there and you can't buy any souvenirs. Like, you're not allowed to have anything to cherish the moments of you being there. You can't take photos. It's kind of like the equivalent thing. It's a massive experience for you, but you're being taken away the privilege to have something to remember that time by. And the thing is that if an artist or a band do want to say at the beginning of a show, like, guys, can we just kind of cut it down with the photos? Please don't spend all your time on your phone. Just take a few photos. Don't be constantly looking at your phone. Don't be constantly on social media. Then that's respectful. I think at that point you should be taking it upon yourself to think, yeah, they have said that we shouldn't be on our phones all the time. Let's just maybe take one or two and then watch the show. But to then be like, okay, no phones at all. Ban them completely. No phones in shows. They are two very different things, I think. If you're like 15 or 16 years old and you need to text your mum or your dad or your carer or whoever it is looking after you, that like, oh, I'm going to be home at this time, or just to let them know that you're safe. Like, little things like that really do matter. And if you take away that person's right to do that, it's really unfair. I mean, first of all, what are you even going to do? Are you just going to take phones from people at the start of the show? Like, is that how it's going to work? Are you going to be like, oh no, you need to confiscate these, you need to put them in a certain area so that no one can access them and ruin the ambiance of the show? Like, how's it going to work? People are definitely going to rebel against that. So people find ways to sneak in their phones. It'll get a bit of an annoying habit for like venues doing. There'll be people needing to be monitoring people on their phones, and then they'll be called out for being on their phone, maybe just sending a quick text or taking a photo of a really good moment in the show. Like, there are so many little things that you're taking away from people, and I don't think it's enough to just be like, well, the artist has asked for this. Well, the artist needs to remember as well that, like, the fans have paid for this show. These fans have got the artist kind of to where they were. Like, they've helped grow that artist, they've supported that artist from the beginning, they've bought their albums, they've bought their t-shirts, they've bought, so many different things, they've spread the word with their friends. Like, there's so many things that these fans have done for that artist, and it's just like, Can't you just let them take a video, like a photo? What's wrong with that? But on the flip side, there is the extremists. I don't mean like terrorism or anything. I mean like the extreme phone users at shows. Sorry. There are people that will stand on their phone videoing every moment, taking photos constantly, obviously not even paying attention. These people are dicks, honestly. Like, you're constantly just focusing on something else when you could actually just be focusing on the show. I get that. Yeah, I don't like that people do this. It really does frustrate me that people would rather do that than focus on the moment that is going on in front of them that could be a really big time in their life, and they'd rather document it on their phone. But at the same time, it's not really that harmful if you just take a few, If you're constantly on your phones, then that is an issue. But then to counter that argument, I would argue that in my experience, I actually haven't seen that much. I don't go to that many gigs where there is someone stood next to me that is constantly using their phone. Like, I've never experienced that in my life. And honestly, if I had, you know what you can do? You can just walk away. There's usually enough space at a gig for you to mingle through people to a point where you're not near someone that's using their iPad to film the entire show, or their fucking cameras, or their flashes are constantly in your eyes or whatever. You can move away from these people. It is not every person in the crowd that you see. They are not all on their phones, okay? It can't be that much of an inconvenience. Surely not, right? Like, it can't be that bad. And this brings me on to my other point as well that I want to mention, is about how other things are way worse than people using their phones at gigs, and I'll get onto those. Now, this isn't me saying I'm completely against these things, but I think people have a harder time with these things than they do with watching other people use their phones. And I'm going to list them: crowd surfing, mosh pits, and like walls of death, or any other things that like involve kind of like the crowd participation. And the reason I say this is because more often than not, you will be dragged into these things at gigs when you don't want to be. And that's not to say that just because you don't want to be, you're a pussy, or you're weak, or you're lame, you don't want to have a fun time. No, you want to watch the show, and if you're being dragged into a mosh pit, you kind of can't really concentrate. The amount of times I've fallen over, or I've seen someone else fallen over, or I've seen someone get hit in the face, or I've seen someone just involuntarily be dragged into a mosh pit when you can kind of see on their face that they don't want to be there. It's fine if you want to be there, but like, there are so many occurrences where people that don't want to be there are there, and that's a distraction for them because they want to be focusing on the music, what's going on in front of them, the band playing, and then there are people around them that are having their own little thing, but they're getting in the way of the other people. And honestly, the people in mosh pits and other things like that, are they really paying attention to the art that's going on? Like, are they really focusing on the music, or are they just more focusing on their kind of like internal rage, their excitement, their adrenaline? They just kind of want to push people around and just go insane and have just like a crazy moment, which is fine. But when you kind of think of it as like what's going on at the show, are they paying attention to all the details that someone else might be? Probably not. But should we ban mosh pits? No. Like, we shouldn't ban things like that. Why should we? People want to do it, so they have the right to do it. They have the right to have a good time. And I think it's the same applies for taking a video. Yeah, again, if you take too many or you're constantly on your phone, you're kind of being a dick. And you probably don't really have the sort of right attitude to be at a concert, because what are you there for? Are you there to brag about it on social media, or are you there for the artist? Like, that's the thing. I think that's what people get annoyed about the most. And the thing is, I personally never take photos or videos. Like, I have no evidence of any show I've ever been to apart from tickets. Like, I'm not even lying either. And it's not because I'm against taking photos or anything like that. I'm clearly for it. I just think taking the right away from people is very unfair. I mean, like, I even saw as well, like, the idea that we should take photographers and phones out of shows. Like, is photographers, like, they really like get they get a lot from this. Like, they can share their art. They take some incredible photos. Like, even the artists themselves, like, promote on their social media and like use as their like pictures. You know, it's just like, do we really need to take all this away? I don't think that many artists are for this, honestly. Um, I don't think it's gonna be a thing that'll end up becoming like a more prominent thing. I think it's just gonna be a select amount of artists that do this every so often, and then it'll become like a discussion cycle again. But for me, I don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting the artist or the band, but I think it's something that we just need to take a step back from, you know? Like, when it's not that disrespectful to the artist taking a photo, like, it doesn't ruin the entire show. You're saying live for the moment, but like, it takes barely a moment to take a photo, does it? Like, what, 99% of the show you're watching, and then the other 1% is taking a video or taking a photo, and apparently that's not enough to be living in the moment. It's, come on. And then there's the other argument again that's like, um, back in the day, they didn't take photos. They lived in the moment. Oh, they didn't take photos. They didn't need their phones. Yeah, all right. You're telling me that if they had the ability to take photos at Woodstock like the way we do now back in like 1969, they wouldn't have done it. I think they would have. They would have definitely took that moment in and bragged about it and took loads of photos to remember the time they had. You know, you're acting like other generations would be different to our generation. It's just that we have access to it. If they had access to it, they'd have done it too. You can't say that they wouldn't have. It's silly. So yeah, don't take the opportunity for people to savor moments for the rest of their lives from them just because of some bad eggs that waste their time on their phones the whole time. Those people are annoying. Don't be that guy, but also don't ban them from shows. We don't need that. I mean, it really is unnecessary. It's unnecessary. It is very unnecessary. We need our phones for many things. We can use them just in a split second to text someone. Like, it's not like you're really taking that much energy away from what's going on there. Many other things distract you through the night. I mean, the phones shouldn't be that much of an issue. Let me know your thoughts on this, if you agree, disagree, if you actually think they should be banned, or you think they should be restricted in some kind of way, or you think the entire argument's a bit silly, or what experiences. Look at my red ear. Look at that. It's red again. It's back. Experiences you've had at shows where you've been like really pissed off with people around you because they're constantly on their phone. Just give me some examples, because like I said, I've not had that much of an experience. There was one time where I accidentally stood on this girl's feet and then she shouted at me. Like, she shouted at me. Like, you can't help standing on someone's feet at a gig where there are that many people. Like, that was worse than someone getting out their phone. Like, it really was. Like, I was like, what? I can't do anything about it. But, hey, there was 10 seconds I wasn't watching the band. The band were very annoyed with this. They felt very disrespected. They banned that girl from all shows. They banned me from all shows. I'm just... Let me know what you think. Bye bye.